tipping really doesn't actually have anything to do with how good of a job you do. It is just a culture that has developed, and it's become this expectation. And not everywhere even does tipping anymore. So if you have clients whose families originated from outside of the United States, or they have immigrated to the United States, they may have very different viewpoints on tipping. They may not see tipping as a necessity. They may not see tipping as a necessity in our industry because we're not a traditional salon. We're not going and getting our nails done, getting our hair cut or colored. We're not sitting down in a restaurant. So they may not even have any connection with the expectation of tipping. And there's absolutely nothing that you can do about that. You can provide the best service in the world, and some people are just not going to tip, okay? Because they don't see it as some kind of necessity, all right? So don't beat yourself up. Don't internalize that and be like, what could I have done different? Instead, just focus on providing amazing customer service for the sake of providing amazing customer service. If I had approached that situation with my bride a little bit differently from the mindset of, hey, I need to get us a conference room. I need to get things going on the schedule because she's going to be late. That would have shifted my focus, and I probably would have gotten my ass in gear a little bit faster. And my focus would have been making sure that everything gets done on time and my client still looks and feels amazing, rather than, going at it with what's in it for me. When you approach business decisions and how you make choices, how you interact with clients from the viewpoint of what's in it for me, that is always going to be a limiting factor, okay? Because it's going to be based on what you think somebody else is going to do. You have no control over that. Instead, you should be basing your business practices, your client interactions, the decisions that you make, moving your business forward based on what's in it for my client. How am I making the best experience possible for my clients? That is going to set your brand reputation, that you go above and beyond for the sake of the client, not for yourself. You can always kind of tell when people are really kind of thinking about themselves first. You can always tell when those businesses are nickeling and diming people just for the sake of nickeling and diming. They come up with these policies or they come up with these fees because it benefits them, and it's not necessarily about benefiting the client. Okay, there is a business coach that I follow. Her name is Melanie Aubert. Hopefully I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, but she had a post a few weeks back and it was really interesting. And she was talking about Voxer. So if you're not familiar with Voxer, I'll go into a little side note real quick. So Voxer is like a texting app that a lot of business coaches use. So instead of an actual text or instead of using WhatsApp or whatever, instant messenger, those kinds of things, is called Voxer. All right. So she was talking about how, she has a boundary around 2-minute Voxer messages. That's the limit. Her clients can send her a voice, because you can do voice or text. And then she responds, and that's how they do their one-on-one business coaching instead of like email and things like that. So she says, okay, 2 minutes is my maximum. And she has a reason behind it. But a lot of people in the coaching industry will say, okay, you can't send me a message more than 2 minutes. And they do it just because they're copying other people. You can tell when people don't have a reason behind their policies, when it's just, oh, I don't want anything more than 2 minutes because it takes up too much of my time, or whatever reason they're doing it. Or they're just like, oh, well, if I were to copy Melanie and be like, oh, well, Mel only has 2 minutes. So if I implement Voxer in my coaching, then it's going to be a 2-minute limit because that's what she's doing. And there's no reason behind it. And if a client was like, well, why? I don't know, that's the way Mel does it. What kind of answer is that? Does that help my client at all? But she said the reason why she has a 2-minute is it's much easier to give better responses when somebody is able to consolidate their thoughts into that 2 minutes, and they only have 2 minutes to get their thought across. They're much more specific, they're much more targeted in their question, and she's able to go in and give a more targeted and helpful answer to them. And then they can go back and they can, do another 2 minutes or whatever. But if they're sitting there and rambling for 10 minutes and spewing out 5 or 10 different things that they want feedback on, it's harder for her to go through. So it's a benefit to the client to get better results from their coaching. Okay, it's the same thing when people are setting their prices and they're like, well, the bride is more. And then they're like, well, what do you say to brides when they ask, well, why is the bride more? Because she's the bride. Well, that's called a white tax, okay? And it's really shady, really shitty business practice. It's not something that I teach. If you go through my Ultimate Pricing Guide PDF or the training videos, I talk to you really in depth about why the bride should be more, but not just because she's the bride. What is the actual thought process? Why? Why is the bride more? It's not just because you use nicer products. Does that mean you use shit products on everybody else? No, you have to be able to understand the whys of the things that you do in your business. Okay, so when it comes to tipping, you have to understand, well, why am I expecting a tip? What is this doing for me? Why am I doing things the way that I am doing? Hopefully this is, kind of really starting to make sense and really kind of starting to sink through. And you might be thinking, all right, maybe I've been approaching tipping wrong. Maybe I've been approaching how I provide service for my clients wrong. Maybe I'm doing things for the wrong reason. I'm doing it for my benefit rather than my client's benefit. And this is taking value away from my client experience. If you can't articulate why you go above and beyond, because I want really nice tips, well, fuck you. I mean, as a bride, I'd be like, really? That's why you do this? Because you want me to pay you more? Thank you so much for listening today. If you knew this about the culture of tipping, I hope I've at least inspired you to approach things in a new way that makes your life easier and makes your business more successful. Make sure to leave me a comment with any questions that you have. Thank you so much for watching or listening to today's episode. I will see you back next week.